lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to the REA Fall Catalog Auction live stream. Today is Thursday, November the 30th, 2023. My name is Jeremy Lee, and we are going to have a really interesting episode. Right now, we are going to be looking at several of the items that are up on the REA Fall Catalog Auction, headlined by the 1914 Baltimore News, Babe Ruth. Let's bring out our guest, the president of REA Auctions, Brian Dwyer. Brian, welcome back. How are you doing today?
I am good. Thank you for having me. Always love being on with you.
Well, I love having you on, Brian. It's always such just an easy and fun and interesting conversation. We're getting down to the wire here. The auction ends on December the 3rd. That is this Sunday. We were on a couple of weeks ago. We looked at a bunch of items. We're going to look at some different items tonight, but get us up to speed. I've seen you a lot of places lately. Talk about just how big this auction is and all the media that you're doing. What sort of people are interested in what's going on at REA during the fall catalog auction?
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing, the response. I mean, we knew that we had a big auction on our hands here with this Babe Ruth rookie card. Didn't know kind of the legs that it would get underneath it, but we knew the hobby would be really excited. But this is broken into the mainstream, and the people that we've heard from, the page views, the new signups. I mean, the buzz around the hobby, which for us, we're always trying to do well for the hobby. It's been pretty exciting. We've been all over. We're getting international interest. We've got bidders coming in from Poland and Asia and you name it. So it's been really fun.
And I mean, you guys have something for everybody. There's over 4,000 items in this auction, but the 1914 Baltimore News Babe Ruth is truly it's maybe not only the headliner of the auction, but this might be the card that has a part in defining REA Auctions, Brian, because as you informed me, in your very first auction, you had a copy of this card. Tell us what that's like.
Yeah, so I joined REA in 2012, right after they had concluded their auction. Back then, they used to do one auction a year. So I came on board when we were gearing up for the 2013 auction. And in my first auction, which was spring of 2013, we sold a Baltimore News Ruth and a Honus Wagner. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. We're gonna do this all the time. This is what we do here at REA. And the truth of the matter is that we've sold a bunch of Wagners, and we sold the record-setting Wagner, 2 years ago at $6.6 million. But I had not seen another Babe Ruth in 10 and a half years. So for this card to come across my desk, for us to be able to educate people about what it is, why it's significant, and why it's so valuable, it's been pretty special. And it's kind of like a full circle moment for me personally.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's what I wanted to get out of there. I think that's a great story. And, a card like this does help to elevate an auction company, the hobby. It is good for the hobby overall. I believe you're bringing a lot of attention to the space. Let's check in on the card right now, see what's going on. This is the card we're talking about, everybody. This is the 1914 Baltimore News Babe Ruth. It's in an SGC VG, very good 3 holder. And it's starting to grow on me more and more as I see it everywhere. I received the REA catalog, the actual hard copy catalog in Courier earlier last week, and it's emblazoning the front cover of the catalog. Truly an identifier of a card. And let's see what it's at. We're sitting at $5.75 million with about 3 days left. I know it's hard to really speculate what this might end up going for, but have your thoughts or feelings changed at all since you were last on with me, which was 2 weeks ago today, as to where this might end?
Yeah, look, I mean, we were pretty steadfast in our belief that the card should sell for upwards of $10 million or more. It's at 6.9 million now, 5.75 bid, 20% buyer's premium brings it up just shy of 7 million. So that means right now it's already the second most valuable card ever sold at auction. We're very encouraged by the activity. You can see there we started it at 2.5 million. The increments are $250,000 a pop. We've got 14 bidders on the card. And, this is 3 days and change left. This is a tactician's game right now. So we expect this weekend to be pretty exciting. And sky's the limit, right?
Well, I'll be watching with keen interest, because my experience with auctions is that the serious bidders, they put in their bid early, and then they put in their real bid closer towards the end during extended bidding. So, I think we're going to see action at the end, and I encourage everybody watching to log into reaauctions.com on Sunday and watch this thing and see. And, if you want to know what happens in the, at the end of the day, I'll be sure to share it to my Instagram as to what this thing ends up selling for at the end. Let's say hello to Timeless Cardboard. Says, so looking forward to this Sunday. I'm going after a couple of grails. Can't wait. Thanks, Brian and REA Auctions. Good luck to you, Timeless Cardboard, on your bids. Let us know how you do. I'll be curious. Richard Price puts out a guess of $13.75 million. That would be record-breaking, Brian. So that'd be pretty cool, right?
I would not say no to that. We just don't know. If you look at we've been fortunate enough to sell several 7-figure items in our day, and they all unfold at the end. So we're just sitting here watching. We're doing everything we can to get people out and bidding and interested and educated. And we'll see. So you said robertedwardauctions.com. You don't have to place the bid. You can just come and watch. Should be pretty fun. Yeah,
website right on the screen at the bottom right now, everybody. All right, let's keep on going. We've got a few items teed up to look at. This next one is a card that I've never owned, Brian. I'm not even going to say that I've never owned the Baltimore News Ruth. Obviously, I haven't. But the 1909 American Caramel E90-1 Joe Jackson is a card that I've had my eyes on for years. Never owned one. They're very rare. Look at this. It's an SGC3. It's already at $90,000 with BP. This is a really nice copy. What I like about this particular copy is that oftentimes in the nose, there seems to be an issue around the nose area, but this one looks really, really nice. You have a great image of Joe Jackson himself. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this card?
Yeah, you kind of touched on one of the main issues that this card suffers from sometimes is registration. You have in the face, the lips, the nose. It can be all sorts of wonkiness, if you will. This one's pretty good. And for me, the centering, the purple background, it's all intact, well centered. A 3 on a caramel card like this is a very strong grade. I think people sometimes hear 3 and they say, oh, I'll just wait for a 5 or a 6. They're not available if you're looking for a card like this. So this is getting a lot of activity, $90,000 already, like you said, very strong price, probably will continue to climb.
And I just want to point out, if you look at you mentioned the centering, you mentioned the registration, my two kind of most important attributes of a card's condition. Corners are very important too. And if you look at this card, I love the natural and even rounding of the corners. This to me is what a vintage card should look like. This is, to me, Brian, I want this in a 3. I don't want this in a 6 or a 7. Yeah, this is a perfect specimen for my collection. It's too perfect. It's still too expensive for me, but this is an amazing specimen. What are your thoughts on those comments I made about natural, rounded, and even cornerware?
I'm right there with you. A lot of my personal collection, we've talked about my collecting tastes various times when I've been on with you in the past. A lot of them are in the VGX range. I collect E206s, I collect Goudeys, I collect 19th century cards. I like them to look like this. So this one's a great example, high end for the grade, in my opinion. And I think that's why you're getting the strong activity on the high price right now.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Hello to you, vintage card collector. We have a Facebook user says, incredible card. Adam Gray, welcome. Good to see you, buddy. Says, thanks for doing the show. Jeremy and Brian, can't wait to see how the Ruth does, but also excited to see the 13 card Baltimore News lot, the Michael Jordan precious metal gems, and the 1971 Topps basketball box. Huge auction, no doubt about it. All right, let's go to the next item we want to look at. This is the Nap Lajoie. I say Lajoie. Before we went live, I said, Brian, how do you say? He says, I say it Lajoie. Nap, the Napoleon Larry Lajoie. It's a near mint SGC 7. Now, this card is this is a very important and popular card. Tell us what makes this card so highly coveted by the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, this was really one of the first chase cards, if you will. I mean, Goudey, 240 card set in 1933, intentionally short printed, omitted the Lajoie card. And by the way, you and I can attribute the pronunciation difference to north of the border, south of the border.
Fair.
But this card wasn't available until 1934. So a lot of collectors were sitting there at 239 cards and wondering where this was. Eventually, they redeemed them, got them out into circulation. One of the facts that I love about this card is it's actually, there are more 9s than 8s. There was a find at once upon a time where the population of 9s actually got maybe 6 or 10 of them. But this is a 7. Really great example. I just love the design of this card. Reminds me of those Sport Kings of the same year. I think it's really sharp. Good green background. Again, registration is sometimes an issue for this card, but this one looks to be all there.
He looks super in focus and clear. You mentioned the reference to the 33 Sport Kings, really the silhouettes that they have at the bottom of the cards. Here you have 2 at the top left. I love this lime green as well. Look at how clear he looks there.
Yeah.
And it looks photo-like to a degree. Amazing card. And yeah, it's just beautiful. What's up, peeps? Welcome to the show. Good evening. All right, and this one is at 62,500 as it sits right now. Moving along, another 33 Goudey. This is the Lou Gehrig, but this is the color process proof card, and it's a pair. So I'm going to put that up there, and you tell us, what are we looking at here, Brian?
Well, back in the day, they produced these cards in a number of different steps. And so we have seen 1933 Goudey, we've seen 1952 Topps, and right on through the 60s and 70s and 80s, what they call color process sheets. And basically that would be a black and white sheet, a cyan sheet, a magenta sheet, a yellow sheet, whatever the case may be. These 2 cards are 2 of the unfinished proof production cards from the Goudey Gehrig card. The interesting thing about the Goudey Gehrig of that year is that the pose is the same between number 92 and number 160. So we don't know exactly which card this was used for. It's labeled number 92, but it's kind of a 2-for-1 in more ways than one. I think they're super cool. I mean, this is right at the crux of hobby history. This is how this iconic card was made. So I think it's a pretty special opportunity here.
Yeah, this is personally the 33 Goudey Lou Gehrig is at the top of my current want list. And I've often wondered, do I want number 92 or 160? And I would think that I would want the lower numbered card, the 92, because it's the first one, despite everything else being equal. But then you look at the population reports, and the 92 is more common than the 160, which some people may covet the 160. I want to know your opinion. Which is the more important, if there is an answer, the number 92 or the number 160 for the regular card, not these process proofs?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've never differentiated the 2 of them. I've owned both of them. I don't think I ever gave any thought to which one I wanted more or less. I think I buy the argument 92 being first, lower number, but they're both great. I wouldn't kick either one of them out of the collection. Yeah,
I mean, and they, for all intents and purposes, they're identical. I haven't been able to notice a difference. $14,000 right now for this pair of process proof 33 Goudey Lou Gehrig's number 92. Continuing on, similar piece here. This is the 33 Goudey Babe Ruth number 144 process proof. What's important about this is that, well, I'll just add some. You and I know this. Maybe most people watching do too. There's 4 different Babe Ruth cards in the 33 Goudey set. Number 53 with the yellow background, seemingly a zoom in on this card here. It kind of looks, it's very similar, if not the same image, just zoomed in. And but this is the only one that shows him in a full body shot, taking a swing of the bat. And this is, I mean, probably the coolest looking of all four, right? So this is the process proof. Again, it's graded SGC authentic. Tell us what you'd like us to know about this piece, please.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you. When it comes to the Goudey roots, again, none of them are getting kicked out of my collection, but I do appreciate the fact that you have this full standing swinging pose on the 144. Same thing that we just talked about with the Gehrigs. This is a step in the process. We actually have a bunch of proofs in this auction. So we have the Gehrigs, we have the Babe Ruth, we have a group of 18 or 20 other commons that are paired up in one lot. We've got some other Hall of Famers. We've got some oddities. We've got a number 53 yellow Ruth with a blue back. Normally they're green. So this, if you are a Goudey collector, or if you're a student of Goudey's, or if you're just interested in classic cards, this is the auction to take a look, read the descriptions, read the copy. You will walk away having learned something.
And again, there's over 4,000 lots in this auction. This Babe Ruth 1933 Goudey proof number 144 sitting at 14,500. But if you come back to the main page here, you can search on robertedwardauctions.com. You can search various ways by title, description, lot number as well. If you want to go search for other proofs or other 1933 Goudeys, be sure to do that. All right, next item is this 1954 Topps Ernie Banks rookie card SGC 9. Now, I'm noticing a theme so far, Brian. Everything has been SGC. What do you make of that? PSA has been around, just as long. PSA well respected. SGC certainly very well respected. Why do you think we're seeing so many SGC cards in this auction?
Well, look, I mean, SGC has always been very strong in the vintage. We've looked at SGC cards. We've looked at vintage cards mostly so far. But I think that, collectors, they love both companies, right? I mean, I worked at SGC. Many people know. I've always classified it as kind of like a Coke versus Pepsi thing. So they're both great companies. They've both been around a long time. They both do, pretty much the same thing. SGC, I think collectors gravitate to because the presentation of the slab is top notch, the grading standards top notch, and I think if you look at the cards that are in this auction, the SGC ones are very strong, and they've been doing very well.
So this 54 Ernie Banks SGC 9, this is his one and only rookie card, $50,000 right now. What are your thoughts on this copy itself, but also the availability, we talk about populations a lot in this hobby, and people maybe erroneously believe that if there's a population of, 150 cards, that you can go find one of those. There are 150 available. That's farthest thing from the truth. Right. I like to differentiate between the population and the float. How many are actually being actively traded or are going to be within the next few years?
Yep.
Can you speak to this card? Just how rare is a card like this in this high grade?
Yeah, well, I mean, real quick, I'll touch on your float comment because I think there's a lot of value, and I think sometimes people don't consider that. With the 1914 Ruth, that's one of the points we're making. Yes, there's 10, which is extremely rare, but they're locked up in long-term private collections, and we don't expect them to come up for auction. It's been easier over the last 20 years to buy an NFL team than it has been to buy a Baltimore News Babe Ruth. So when you think about it that way, the float becomes very, very important. This Banks has always been tough and high grade. And if you look at the population, whether it's SGC or PSA, there's just not that many of them. And then when you look at what's available, it's even less. This is a card that's been tough to find in high grade. 54 has centering issues. Oftentimes the top order intentionally omitted on these cards. This is a great example. I think it's so simple. I think it's so striking. And this example is very sharp, very clean. And I think you're seeing that with the level of activity on it so far.
It's such I look at this card and it gives me feelings inside. This card is a card that I coveted for a long time. I own a copy. Mine is a PSA 7 in a PSA 7 holder. And I just absolutely love it. And I want to bring up Timeless Cardboard makes the comment right here. Arguably the GOAT of baseball. First, I don't know if he's talking about this or if he's talking about the Babe Ruth. I'm not exactly sure. He might be behind on the episode, but I'll read the comment anyway. Arguably the GOAT of baseball, first card, ultra rare. It's absolutely the top of the pyramid for baseball cards. Absolutely incredible. Brian, could he be talking about the Ernie Banks, or is he talking about the 1914 Babe Ruth?
Look, not to take anything away from Ernie Banks, but I'm going to guess that he's talking about Babe Ruth here. I mean, Banks is certainly in the upper echelon of Hall of Famers, beloved by the Cubs fans. My nod for the GOAT of baseball goes to Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. All right. I think you're probably, I want to say hello to Phil, the loud collector, says, I know very little about these historic cards, but happy to listen and learn, boys. Yeah, that's the beauty of shows like this, is that we're here to educate and really bring these cards to the forefront, because this is what the hobby was built on, these things. Timeless Cardboard says the Ruth. That makes a lot of sense. Figured as much. Orlando from A Collector's Dream has joined us. Welcome to the show. Orlando does have a significant vintage collection. And Adam Gray says definitely he was talking about the Babe Ruth. All right. So this wonderful Ernie Banks card is currently sitting at $50,000 as the high bid at the moment. And again, this auction ends on Sunday, December the 3rd. Visit robertedwardauctions.com to view, register, and bid. All right, Brian, next up, Johnny Bench rookie card, 1968 tops. This is a PSA Gem Mint 10. Extremely high grade for a card from 1960. I mean, you can't get any higher. Current bid is $44,000. Now, I want to ask you, if you are a Ron Tompkins collector, did you get the short edge of the stick here? Because you need to pay so much money for the top grade Ron Tompkins?
Yeah, if you look at the 60s, there's a lot of journeyman ball player collectors that are cursing out the Johnny Benches, the Tom Seavers, the Nolan Ryans of the world. But, that's part of the charm of the tops of the 60s. You had these guys on 2, 3, 4 player rookie cards. And the Bench is a great card. I mean, 68 is a set that historically is more plentiful in high grade. I mean, I think if you look at the number of 10s that are out there, certainly with respect to commons, there's a pretty good supply. But anytime you get a Hall of Fame rookie, anytime you get a big time Hall of Famer in a 10, it's noteworthy and notable. So this is a card that we have not offered many times, and it's doing well so far. Like you said, 44,000 right now.
Yeah, so it's a population of only 16 copies in Gem Mint 10. So, if you're collecting the Hall of Fame PSA set registry, you need the Johnny Bench, and only 16 people can own a copy that is this clean. And the 68s are famous, these edges with this sort of dot matrix type of pattern to make it look like it's sort of a TV screen or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but the edges and corners are very often show signs of wear. Yeah. And as we look at the edges and corners, this thing is pristine. Now, PSA doesn't have a grade that they call pristine. Some other grading companies do. And this card could be pristine. It could be better than a Gem Mint 10, Brian.
It absolutely could. And, I think you were touching on it. There's a whole bunch of these card sets from the 70s and 60s that have white borders, but there's also ones that have the colored borders, and the colored borders are always going to show more wear. 63 tops, impossible to find in high grade. So this kind of like burlappy sand type design of 68s, they can chip and show wear. And this one's immaculate.
Yeah. And other GOAT rookie cards like the Gretzky 79 Opechian tops, the 86 Fleer rookie, the same thing, 53 tops, the Mantles, the Mays, the Jackie, all the same thing. All right. The Johnny Bench rookie card currently at $44,000 in PSA 10. All right. Next item we're going to look at, you guys. Now, this is such a neat piece. This is the 1910-11 Sporting Life Hans Wagner. Honus. Let me ask you this. I've always said Honus Wagner. Some people have told me it's Honus. How do you say this guy's name?
I say Honus Wagner.
Me too. Honus Wagner. This is the pastel. This is such a pretty card. And, as you mentioned earlier, you've sold several T206 Honus Wagners over the years. In my intro video to all my Sports Cards Live episode, there is a little clip of you holding 2 of them, as you showed on the show. Now, it's a card that's $1 million to get into at least. Very tough card for anybody to own. But there are alternative Honus Wagners. And the T206 Wagner isn't only important because it's a legendary set and the toughest card. He's an inaugural Hall of Famer. He's known as one of the best, if not the best, shortstops of all time. There are other options, and this is one of us. Tell us about this card, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great card. You've teed it up perfectly. It's very reminiscent of the T206 Wagner, classic set, Sporting Life, full of Hall of Famers. Wagner has 2 variations in this set. This is the pastel. He's got a blue background. We actually sold in, I think, our October auction, a blue background Wagner for a record price, highest price ever realized for one of these cards. So, I just like the simplicity. This is a great portrait. It's just a great, simple design. This is graded a 5, beautiful copy, and getting a lot of eyeballs, a lot of bids on it so far.
Certainly is. Let's take a quick look at the back of it as well. There's the back is clean. Very nice. Currently sitting at $22,500. Now, before we go on, you mentioned the blue background. I am the proud owner of a 1910 E90-2 Honus Wagner.
Nice.
That I bought from Robert Edward Auctions.
That's a great card. I owned that in a PSA 2 once upon a time. Yours is 2 too. Okay.
Maybe this was your copy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and check the records here. But that's one that I wish I had back. But if you've been doing this any long time, you're gonna wish you kept some things.
And mine is not for sale, Brian. I am keeping it. You will not be getting it back. Not for the next several years. Anyway, let's say hello to Mike Double V Cards. Good to see you, Mike. Welcome to the show. Orlando says, I hope you're not going to show the cards that I'm bidding on. We might be. We've got about 7 more we're going to look at. Adam Holgate says, many, many great cards at the REA auction. As always, I'm bidding on a few. And Adam Holgate just actually won a 72 Clemente on my Saturday night episode of Sports Cards Live. Adam, congratulations. LGC says 1968 potato sack cards look great. And Jacob Dahl has joined the show. Thank you, Orlando, for your comment on my beautiful Honus Wagner. I do love it, and it's one of a couple cards I bought from REA over the years. All right, let's keep on going. Next up, now this is really cool. 1921 exhibits Babe Ruth. I do not know a lot about exhibits. I've heard about them. I know that they were sold on countertops. Tell us what you can about these things, please.
Yeah, so just to give some context here, this is about a postcard-sized trading card here. So 1921 exhibit. Really, a lot of people consider this to be Ruth's best exhibit. It's just a great pose early on with his tenure in the Yankees. This auction, fascinating enough, we have this example, which is beautiful for a 3. If you go top to bottom, front to back, dynamite-looking card. We have the original photo used to make this card. So really just an incredible pair. That's going to go for 6 figures, but this you can get into much, much cheaper. Exhibits came in vending machines. They came on countertops. This one, PSA 3, I mean, stunning example.
It's just so nice to see an image of him that is an image versus a painting. And I love my portrait cards and the T206 Cobbs and the 33 Goudeys, but this is the postcard brings that additional element to a sports collectible that is just exceeds a card to that degree because it looks like a photo. We're sitting at $10,500, 22 bids right now, and hopefully you guys got a nice look at it. I want to point out the bottom here. GEO for George H. Babe in quotes Ruth along the bottom, outfielder, New York. Just such a cool image of him. Such a cool image. One that you do not see very often. I can understand why this would be his most popular or important exhibits piece. All right, here's another Babe Ruth card. This is 1933 Uncle Jack's Candy. It's an SGC 1.5. This is a brand I'm not familiar with, Brian, the Uncle Jack's. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, very, very scarce. I mean, this is a card that we have not sold more than once or twice probably in our history. Simple pose, obviously here you see Ruth sitting with the Yankees. Came with a variety of different background colors. So this one's purple. I think there's blue out there. Some of the cards come in green. Some of the cards come in red. We actually are breaking up an Uncle Jack's Candy set of sorts. I don't know if it's full, but it's near complete at least in this auction. Great Hall of Fame selection. There's an unopened pack in this auction, but they were issued in little cellophane wrappers with candies. And this is just a card that, you know, a lot of people don't even know exists.
I count me among them. I can't believe you have an unopened pack of these things in there. I like at the bottom, it says right there, Babe Ruth, King of SWAT. So 1933, Babe Ruth sitting at $20,500 for an SGC 1.5. I mean, this thing must be super rare to own in any grade. Do you happen to know any idea of how many copies exist between SGC and PSA? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna. Any idea?
No, I mean, I don't know. It might be buried in that right up there on your screen. If I had to guess, it's low double digits between the two companies. Not many. I mean, I think there's more than a handful and less than 2 dozen.
I mean, it says at the bottom here, this is just the second example of an Uncle Jack's Ruth we have ever offered. I mean, and you guys have, you know, among the biggest and best auctions in the hobby for well over 15 years now. And that's a rare piece. I'm sure it's going to make somebody very happy who has been looking for a copy of this. One of those cards that the grade doesn't matter. You just have to, if you see it, you buy it. You know, if it's on your list, if you need this card, you buy it when you see it. You just might not get another chance.
Yeah.
All right. A Jackie Robinson, like you said, every show on Vintage needs a Jackie Robinson card in it, as does every auction. This is the 1947 Bond Bred portrait with a facsimile auto. It's a black and white monochrome card in a PSA 6, excellent to mint holder. Now, this is a really nice picture of Jackie. It also predates his 48 leaf rookie card. What can you tell us about the Bond Bred set?
Yeah, great set. This particular variety of card, there's maybe 7, 8, 9 different Jackie poses. He's sometimes running the base, sometimes fielding, sometimes posed in portrait, swinging. So it's very popular among collectors. You can see it's got great advertising on the back. But Bond Bread was a bread company, and this was issued in the loaf of bread. We actually introduced a find maybe 10, 15 years ago of cards from this series into the hobby from a boy. I mean, he's a guy now. He was a boy then who chased around the bread truck and begged the driver for cards. And then he kept them all those years and then started to release them out into the hobby. So really a great card. And photography, you know, the leaf, not going to kick it out of the collection just to keep borrowing the theme, but this one has a different look.
It really does. It's a really cool, the 48 leaf is my favorite, probably my favorite baseball card of all time. But this is a really neat piece that would be a nice complementary piece if you are building, because, you know, not only the 48 leaf, the 49 Bowman and the 52 tops and the 53 tops, they're all worthy of a Jackie collection. But this is kind of this might be the icing on the cake overall. If you already have the mainstream run, really, really cool card. I want to go to this comment here. Brian, he has a question for both of us. Guys, if they were displaying one card in the Smithsonian, what card would you suggest? I know my answer, Brian, but I'm going to let you answer first.
You know, that's like picking your favorite child, right? I think that there's arguments to be made for any number of different cards. I mean, I think you could go back to 1869 Red Stockings and say this is the first professional baseball team, and this is hugely significant. You could go back to Old Judge, one of the first sets. You could go to Tito 6 and the Wagner, because that's been Mona Lisa for decades. Certainly Baltimore News Ruth is in the conversation. 52 Mantle's in the conversation. 89 Upper Deck Griffey's in the conversation. That changed the game for card collecting. So, you know, really, really tough question to answer.
Well, I'm not going to let you off that easy. You got to pick one, please.
I love the Tito 6 Wagner. And so as much as I love the Baltimore News Ruth, and I believe it is the most significant card, I think the Wagner is going to edge it out a touch for the purposes of this question.
And that's my answer too, was the Wagner. And that is my answer today. But, you know, things do change. Everything changes over time. And perhaps the Baltimore News Babe Ruth takes on the same legendary status moving forward that the 1909 Honus Wagner T206 has had up until this day. But that card has been in the news long, even before, but it really became popular when Wayne Gretzky and Bruce McNall bought that PSA8 copy back in the early 90s for $451,000. Nobody could believe that kind of money was being spent on a card. And now that card is, you know, easily an 8-figure card.
Yeah.
We just had a question come in from Vintage Card Collectors. Brian, can you give insight on your sophisticated high-end buyers? Do you know if they tend to only collect vintage or also modern? That's an interesting question.
It's a mix. I mean, honestly, if you think about how people collect at any level, I mean, you've got guys that gravitate to one sport, one type, one player. So for us, we have high-end buyers that are only modern. I mean, we've got that PMG Jordan that was mentioned by Adam earlier, and that those guys probably are just singular focus on modern basketball. The guys that are buying the Baltimore News Ruth are generally going to be vintage minded. I think at the high end, it does take on, for some people, an investment mindset. You know, we always say collect what you like, but for some people, they want to make sure they're not going to lose money. So there's just a lot of different factors that go into the high end, but ultimately it doesn't differ too much from the low end or the middle end. They've just got a little bit more money. They think about it. You know, they collect what they like.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, great insights right there. Adam Gray says he agrees it's the Wagner. Personally, the trimmed PSA8 would be the one I would choose. I think, you know, I don't know if I would choose that or the miscut oversized PSA5, or which one would you choose? Which exact copy? And maybe you gotta go with the one that broke the record that you sold.
Yeah, I mean, I love the story of the one that we sold for $6.6 million. I think it's great. I think it's got, you know, it was bought at a Detroit card convention for $1,200 or $1,800 or something in the 1970s. I mean, the Gretzky McNall Wagner is iconic. We've sold the All-Star Cafe Wagner, which was previously Charlie Sheen's copy. That's got a great story. Stolen out of the All-Star Cafe in New York City. So the thing about Wagner's is that they have all these little nuances and stories. I don't think any copy is a bad copy.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. All right, back to the Jackie Bond Bread, sitting at $19,000. It's a PSA 6 X Mint copy, and that'll be available for purchase on Sunday, December 3rd, when the auction does wind down. And again, please, you guys can log in, view, register, bid on all just over 4,000 items, robertedwardauctions.com. All right, next item. Something else. This is new to me, and this, I believe, is the copy that Vintage Card Collector earlier on asked us if we would talk about it. Here you have it, Vintage Card Collector. This is a 1950s Mascot dog food Mickey Mantle in a BVG, Beckett Vintage Grading Services 1.5. This looks to me a lot stronger than 1.5, but I'm guessing it has to do with that thumbtack hole, right? And I got to tell you, Brian, there's nothing better to me than a low graded card because it has a little thumbtack hole in it. That is so, to me, by the grading company, so over penalized to me, in my personal opinion. Curious on your thoughts on that, as well as what you can tell us about this piece.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I remember when I worked at SGC and I was getting a rundown of their grading standards. I remember specifically some cards coming in with staple holes in them, and I just was dumbfounded that it was an automatic one. I do think, though, that that's one of the intriguing and interesting things about collecting low-grade cards is that, you know, I think about the grading scale as a pyramid. Everybody knows what a 10 should look like, and there's very little variation. But on a 1, you could have a card that's gone through a washer machine. You could have a card that's been folded. You could have a card that's otherwise gem mint, but has a little tack hole in it. And so I think that's the beautiful thing about the grading scale. This card, first time we've ever sold it, relatively new discovery as far as I know to the hobby. Only a handful of these exist. Issued with dog food, I believe by a manufacturer in the Philadelphia area. Great image of Mantle, facsimile signature. Just a very esoteric, but very special card.
And look at the back of it. There's like, it's not, I was expecting it to be blank, but you turn it over. And I love when you have something like this, where you've got something more content to read and just what was going on in the 50s. And I love that this is a dog food card. Like, that's what a neat thing that is right there. So the Mascot dog food, Mickey Mantle, at $28,000. And Vintage Card Collector, you asked us to talk about it. If you have any more questions on it, put them in there, and we can always come back to it and talk further about it. But I think it is so. And you mentioned the esoteric image. Look at that. I mean, he looks so just strong, confident, powerful in that image, holding the bat, confident. I see confidence there. Look how focused he looks.
Yeah, I was just going to say focused, stoic, focused, strong, determined. I mean, it's got it all.
And it's that 1.5. Don't let that fool you. This, to me, is this presents like a 6.
Yeah.
All right. What a piece. Congrats on having it. That's just super, super, super neat. Okay. Next item we are looking at is this 1954 Stahl-Meyer Franks Willie Mays from the Mays Fan Club collection. It's in a PSA 9 mint condition holder. This is a bit oversized. Hey, Brian, what can you tell us about this? Another piece I've never seen before.
Yeah, so during the 1950s, 53, 4, and 5, I believe, Stahl-Meyer hot dogs issued and meats issued these cards. As you can imagine, they're often found with meat and grease stains, and they're creased. The fact that a 9 exists, and the fact that a 9 exists for a player as significant as Mays. You have Aaron, or excuse me, you don't have Aaron. You have Mantle in the set as well. It's just incredible. So this is very strong. The only PSA example graded. And I think that's why you've seen, we started at 10,000. It's up over 40. I think that's why you're seeing bidders get very excited, because you talk about float and you talk about population. Here, the answer is 1 for both of them.
Unbelievable. Mint 9. Let's have a look at the back here before we move along. Kids, get Johnny Stahl-Meyer's baseball kit. You've got stuff to look at here. I always say, like, if I'm going to buy a card that is lower grade, but it's lower grade because of the back of the card, give me that all day long. Give me a card that presents like an 8 on the front, but a 4 on the back. And if I can pay 5 prices all day long, I'll take it. But in addition to that, it's just nice when you have something on the back that it's almost like a bonus when you buy a great card that you love the front, but then the back has additional, like the 40 Bowmans and the Leafs, they all have that. They give you that extra bit of value for the card. And I versus like even the T206s, which are not that exciting on the back, the very early tobacco cards. But when you get into the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, that's when you get more cool things on the backs. This 54 Stahl-Meyer Franks Willie Mays is at $45,000. And like you said, amazing that it is in such high grade. Speaking of such high grade, Gem Mint 10, Walter Payton 76 Topps rookie card. This is probably, I don't know if the Walter Payton rookie card is a Mount Rushmore football rookie. I think it probably should be. It's right. If it's not top 4, it's top 5 or 6 for sure. This PSA 10 copy, extremely rare. Where do you think this falls? How important is this to the hobby?
I think it's very important. I think it's simple, but I think it's significant. And this copy in a 10, if you go over it with the magnifier on our site, it's really dialed in. Not all 10s are created equal. If you've been collecting for a long time, you know that there can be variation. And this card sometimes is found with a little bit of a tilt to the image. Not the case here. Very strong example. No PD really to speak of. Strong colors, good corners. I do think it's a Mount Rushmore of football cards. I mean, the Brown rookie's on there, the Chickle Nagurski's on there. I think this is in the conversation too.
I think so too. The Brown, the Nagurski, maybe the Namath, and the Payton.
Yeah.
I don't know what else would overtake that.
Well, I mean, when you get into the 80s, I mean, that quarterback class of the 80s had some iconic cards. Depends on how big you want to make your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, well, and keep the Mount Rushmore, it's old. Mount Rushmore doesn't have cards from the 80s on it, I don't think.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I would argue that the Fleer Jordan should be on the basketball Rushmore. So
exceptions to every rule, I suppose. But that the Joe Montana is a great card, and like you said, you've still got Marino and Elway and these guys, but I don't think I think this might be on there. I think this might be on there ahead of those guys. This is at $36,000. Do we know the population of this card in PSA 10? Do you happen to have it off the top of your head?
I don't. No, I don't.
That's okay. Still a very nice copy, like you said. Not all 10s are created equal. That goes without saying, but this is definitely a key piece, and congratulations to the ultimate owner. I'm going to find the population right now. I can't let that go. I just have to know. I have to share it with the audience. So Vintage Card Collector in the meantime says the shape of the Stahl-Meyers is so unique and cool. I think so too. I was noticing that. Jonathan Clark throws out the 55 Jim Thorpe as another potential Mount Rushmore football card. The population on the Walter Payton PSA 10 is 54. There are only 54 people that can own this card in a PSA 10 holder. All right, let's go to our last item that we're going to look at tonight, and that is another Mount Rushmore card, but from basketball, 61 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain in a near mint to mint PSA 10 holder. And the first thing about this particular copy, Brian, that jumps out at me is the bold, rich color.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Notice it right away. These, I mean, they come in all sorts of different, frankly, once upon a time in my collecting career, I sat tableside when somebody opened a box of 61 Fleer. This is a long time ago at a national when you could do something like that without, throwing away a couple $100,000. And the cards came out with varying degrees. It was like the top was vibrant and the bottom was not so vibrant, or the gum had shifted in such a way that it had coated the surface. This is very, very bold, very vibrant, struck me right away. And this is a card too, and a set where you can get a lot of PD, print defects, fish eyes. This is very clean.
Yeah, it is a really cool copy. The thing that I always look for first with the Chamberlain rookie is under his left shoulder armpit, if there's a break between the background color and his arm. And right here, you can sort of see a bit of a blue tint in between there, a bit of white. There's very often a very clean break with white in there. So this is actually pretty nice. I do notice that fisheye just above the armpit there, but outside of that, what a gorgeous, gorgeous copy. Registration is wonderful. You can often see up in the Warrior here, but this guy, and especially in this white little swirl, you'll see registration issues. This is almost perfect, Brian. Almost perfect.
Yeah, and great. You and I have talked many, many times over the years about rough cuts, and this has a little bit of a rough cut on that edge there, which to me I like. I think that's a great characteristic for vintage cards, and it's pretty nice looking 8. Yeah,
the rough cut never. I won't say never, but doesn't bother me usually. And the reason why I kind of requalified that statement is because I'm thinking about the 79 O-Pee-Chee Gretzky, and there are varying degrees of rough cut. Sometimes it looks like, a dog chewed it off, and sometimes it's got that perfect amount of roughness, which I think this card has. It's a wonderful rough cut, which sounds weird to say, but that's just the way us card collectors feel about things like that. Phil the Loud Collector says rough cut love is universal in the hobby, and so is the dislikes. Fair enough, Phil. Fair enough. All right, the Wilt Chamberlain near mint 861 Fleer rookie card, Mount Rushmore card, no doubt about it, is sitting at $21,000. Let's have a quick look at the back. There's the back of it right there. does seem to have something going on right here. Just a little bit of staining, Brian. Is that all that is?
It looks to be. Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier that the gum sometimes rubs up against the cards, or wax stains from the fold of the wax wrapper. So probably one of those two things.
Definitely like to see that on the back versus the front, if it's going to be there at all. An amazing copy. Again, the color, it's so well printed. I don't know that I've seen a copy this bold ever. And I look at lots of these, Brian, lots of them.
Yeah.
Really, really nice copy. Jonathan Clark, this is an important comment here. Jonathan says rough cuts equals not trimmed. And there is comfort in that for a lot of people. All right, Brian. Well, hey, this was really, really fun. Lots of great cards here that we got to look at. Again, over 4,000 items, you guys. robertedwardauctions.com. Go check it out. There's so many things. 4,000 items ending on Sunday. Brian, is there anything you'd like to let people know of before we wrap up?
I'm going to reward the viewers who have stuck with us for the whole night here.
Oh, let me blow you up for a moment. There you go.
We've got this guy here. So, you know, look, there's over 4,000 lots. There's a lot of variety. There's obviously the Ruth, but there's stuff starting at $100. There's gaming cards, Pokemon, Duke Kahanamuko surfing cards, football, hockey, tickets, autographs. I mean, if you collect anything in the sports realm, I think you're going to find something in this auction for you. So check it out. Bids in by 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. And hopefully we're talking about a big number next time you and I get together.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens on Sunday. Good luck to all the consigners. Good luck to all the bidders, all the buyers. Good luck to the hobby. This is an important auction for the whole hobby, I believe. I want to say to you, Brian, that it's really wonderful to see you taking this mainstream. And it's, you know, congratulations and thank you to the consigner of this card. And like they have an equal part to do with that by being willing to offer this up to the public in this auction. And do you think that this card is going to stay in the United States when it's bought? Do you think it'll be bought internationally or domestically? Or do you even want to speculate on that?
Well, look, I mean, we've 3 days, 72 hours is an eternity in the auction business. So anything could happen. My inclination is that it stays in the United States. But I think that we're going to see some activity that will surprise people, hopefully surprise us. And hopefully we're, you know, education's a big deal for us with respect to this card, raising the profile of this card, letting people understand its significance, and then raising the profile for the hobby. So happy that we're able to do that.
Yeah, well, really well done. Vintage Card Collector says, thanks, Brian. Vintage is the best. Thank you, Vintage. Calling you Vintage, talking about Vintage. Adam Gray says, let's go. Good luck on the auction, Brian. And Mike says, so many incredible cards in this auction. And I'm going to say, thank you to everybody for joining. Incredible viewership tonight. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your engagement in the chat. Brian, thank you for coming on and providing your insights on all the items that we looked at.
Appreciate it.
Good luck on Sunday to all you bidders and consigners. And with that, this episode of the REA Fall Catalog Auction live stream is now over. Brian, thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.